Shalom and welcome to the Middle East Report. In this programme today we'll be discussing the incredible work being done by Magen David Adom in war-torn Ukraine. Warm welcome to the programme, and today's special guests, one's from Israel and the other one is from Hertfordshire, just north of North London. So I've introduced my first guest, who is Katya Korshenbau.
Yes, that's correct.
So I just practiced a little bit before. So you're a paramedic with MDA, and of course I'm joined also by Joshua Diamond, who's part of the fundraising manager for Mda UK. That's Magen David Adom, United Kingdom. Katya, can I start off with your story first, because you've got an extraordinary story to tell. Not only do you work as a professional medic for MDA, love the uniform by the way.
Thank you.
And you've just recently been back to your native Ukraine to help your fellow countrymen and women who are caught up in this horrible war in the Ukraine. But can you just tell us about your Jewish story growing up in Ukraine and how you ended up making Aliyah and working for MDA?
Sure. First of all, thank you for inviting me to share here my story with you. I really appreciate it. So I was born in Odessa, in Ukraine. I did the Aliyah with my parents and my mother's mom when I was 5 years old in the year 2000. We got to Israel after sorry, I'm a bit excited. After USSR broke apart, and since then we've been in good relationship with the rest of the family that is still in Ukraine. Every year we would go visit them, and they would come to Israel to see where we live and how things are. Recently, after the war started, my grandma and grandpa were evacuated from Odessa through Moldova to Romania, and then I got to meet them up and help them to come with me back to Israel. They recently completed the Aliyah progress and starting to learn Hebrew. And that's not simple for a 75-year-old, but they're optimistic, and so do I.
Amazing. And share how you got involved with the work of Magen David Adom, because clearly you're a paramedic. You've got the uniform. When did your interest in MDA come from, and when did you start working for them?
I've started my journey in MDA in 2013. I started out as a volunteer, as a medic. I fell in love in the profession, in the work that we are doing, in the opportunity to help others, and to be so hands-on with helping and doing and being proactive. I did my paramedic education at 2015 till 2017, and I've been there since. I love what I'm doing. I'm taking part in the Paramedics Education Center, so I'm also an instructor for the next generations. It fills me with a lot of purpose, and I'm loving the profession and all the opportunities to be a part of something that is more than just yourself. Yeah.
Amazing. And talk about next generation. It's good to have you on the programme, Josh, and you've been highly recommended by our good friend of this programme and the channel, Stephen Jaffe. So it's great that you could be here. Can you just share something about your Jewish upbringing and how you've got involved with a lot of Jewish youth clubs and what have you? I think it's a Jewish youth clubs and Jewish movements, and what led you to work and get involved in the work of Mda UK?
Yeah, so really great to be here, and really great to speak with you, and also great to be accompanied by Katya, who whose story is phenomenal, and she's a great ambassador for everything great about Israel. So I grew up in London, in East London, and a relatively small Jewish community, although it was much bigger back in its heyday.
It's huge in its heyday.
Huge, yeah, the biggest in Europe in its heyday. And yeah, I've always been involved in my local Jewish schools and attending them, and the local synagogue and local youth clubs, and grown up in a fantastic environment that's, made me very proud about my Jewish identity. And I've always had a strong relationship with Israel, but what really nurtured that was having the opportunity to actually go visit Israel and actually see the real country that it is. And you hear, wow, it's this amazing place, and it's everyone speaks Hebrew, and all the food's kosher. And then you go out there and you see, wow, it's as they say, a balagan. It's a real melting pot of everything, and it's what's so fantastic. And I think that's what makes Israel so great. It's a real mix of cultures, a mix of people. You have people from Ukraine, Russia, or Eastern Europe. You have from across the Arab nations, people that have had to come to Israel for various reasons across the different religions. And that's made me really proud, and that's what led me to working alongside Magen David Adom, because I really believe that MDA is the best vehicle for showing the very best of Israel. It really is that beacon that we can go, wow, we can be really proud of Israel because it's looking at MDA and what it's produced.
Absolutely. And can you share a little bit of your experience of being at university and being Jewish as well? Because that's not an easy environment anymore.
Wow, what a question, Simon. So I was at Birmingham University, which in my second year was famously called the Zionist outpost by the then NUS president. I forgot her name. And it's being on campus is a funny experience, for being a Jewish student, because you just want to go about your normal life. You just want to celebrate Friday night with your mates at the Hillel house having a Friday night dinner, or you want to celebrate the festivals, or you want to do what every other student does, going to the bars and going to the different activities, watching football on the weekend. But it was a funny time, and I'm very thankful to have had a great experience there. But when you wake up and the next morning there's a coffin outside the library with a Palestinian flag on it, because they're saying Israel are killing innocent Palestinians. It's not fun, because they automatically assume that poor Jewish students have a say in what Israel's government's getting up to. And it was actually that resoluteness to defend Israel in a positive way and to give students a real positive message to talk about Israel, because like any government, we see it in the UK, it's not all plain sailing. It's not always an easy country to defend, because it's so it's a young country and because it's so complex. But actually, if we can give students, and I wish I had, was just those positive stories to say, look, people like Katya are going out to Ukraine and saving lives, wearing the Red Star of David on her back. Actually, that would have, I really wish I had that. And that's what's made me more determined to give young people the opportunity to tell these positive stories about Israel and really the best of Israel. And that's really what we want to talk about, and not have to focus on the negativity that other people create.
Absolutely. But what better example than MDA and the work of MDA in not only saving lives in Israel, but Arabs and Christian lives and everyone's, and that mixture, the ethnic mixture of those who work for MDA. It's incredible. So Katya, you are a paramedic. When did you become a paramedic, firstly, professional paramedic, because there's a difference?
I got my license in 2017. I've completed a 2-year course. Afterwards, I completed also my studies in the university, but the practical education I got in MDA, and since then I've been working on the ambulances and as an instructor. In the past, before I was a paramedic, I started out as a dispatcher in the national call center, so I was getting the emergency calls from the civilians. And since I got more and more education and more courses, I advanced in the profession and continued on.
And share with us, because being an Israeli paramedic is not like being any other paramedic in the world, is it? Because not only do you have to deal with routine medical emergencies, heart attacks, road accidents, you've got to deal with terrorist incidents, either rockets and missiles, and you're always on a kind of state of alert. So share with us your experience of being a paramedic in Israel.
So first of all, I haven't tried being a paramedic abroad, so I can't compare. But that's true. We have different events. Recently, there was an attack with a shooting in the Tel Aviv area that we were called. I was in the middle of a class in Ramat Gan in the paramedic education center, and there was an emergency alert about like a mass casualty event. There was a shooting. So I went downstairs with the driver. We took an additional ambulance and responded to the call. Luckily, we did not get there to treat more and more casualties. We already came after the severe injured patients were evacuated. So we at most calmed the public and gave help to anxiety victims on the scene. But yeah, you're always on a state of alert, even when we are doing like shifts in more like calm areas like Tel Aviv, Bnei Brak. It's not like the cities near the border or where in Jerusalem where it's common to have those kinds of events. You're always on alert, and the recent events show us that we have to be always prepared, go over the safety protocols, and keep an eye open and not endanger ourselves. Recently in Bnei Brak, it's very near the station I work in, was an incident with shooting, and one of our medics that was volunteering there found himself face to face with the attacker. Oh. But he was fine, he did not get hurt, and the attacker was taken down briefly afterwards. But yeah, it goes to show that we need always to take care of ourselves and wear the vests if needed, and teach it to the younger generations to be responsible in these kinds of sins.
Josh, what's your role at Mda UK? Because you know, it's so important. The UK branch, primarily because you help paramedics like Katya and others actually save lives in Israel, but not only lives in Israel, as we're going to find out, but also in war-torn Ukraine as well.
Yeah, so my official job title is fundraising manager. What does that mean? Our primary role is to ensure that MDA has the funding it needs to exist. And unlike the ambulance structure in the UK, MDA is not government funded because the government has priorities elsewhere, understandably. And we ensure that Magen David Adom can remain one of the best ambulance services in the world. You know, MDA has three primary roles. It's Israel's ambulance service, it is the blood service, and it is the official Red Cross organisation in Israel. So it has three main things to focus on, and that makes it really different to the rest of the world. It's the fastest responder in Israel to emergencies. It stores the blood supply for the whole country and for the army as well, having recently opened a £90 million brand new centre in the centre of the country in a town called Ramla. And it's a fantastic facility, world-leading facility, and it has some of the most complex blood makeups in the whole world because of the real melting pot of the population. Actually, there's a centre in Bristol in the UK that often refers to the blood supply in Israel because it needs this type. And where else in the world you get Ethiopian people marrying Russian people and having children? Well, in Israel, because of the makeup of the population, which is so unique. And as the official Red Cross Society, it's mandated to help countries worldwide, whether it's going to Haiti in an earthquake or, of course, in Ukraine. And, you know, it's part of that international movement. It's not isolated, and it's representing Israel on the international stage. And that Red Star of David, like the Red Cross, like the Red Crescent, is seen as a real beacon of safety by people around the world. And I think we should be really, really proud of that the Star of David appears alongside those other symbols as a real, Katya will tell you about her time at the field hospital, and she was saying people were coming up and, queuing to get into the field hospital because they see the state of Israel represented by Magen David Adom saving their life and as a beacon of hope. It is.
Amazing. And Katya, before we talk about the incredible work you did in Ukraine, can you also share, has your time in the IDF, I'm assuming you served in the IDF, actually helped you to prepare for the work that you do?
I did not serve in the IDF. I served as a volunteer in the National Service. That's the way I started my way in MDA. That's how I got exposed to the medical field and fell in love with it.
So I knew that was an important question to ask you. So when we're talking about the crisis in Ukraine, it's absolutely hideous what we've actually seen and witnessed in Ukraine. It's a reminder of what happened in Europe over 80 years ago with the Second World War, and the scale and the level of devastation is absolutely shocking. So tell us the day when you were called by your bosses that you were going to fly to Ukraine and be a paramedic and help the refugees caught up in the war to try and give them urgent medical assistance.
So the offer to join the delegation came just about the time I was on my way to Romania to help my grandparents come to Israel. So it came really natural to me. So I was already in the mindset of helping them get out to safety. Afterwards, they were only in Odessa. So Odessa at the time was fine, was not bombed, but there were a lot of alerts and they were really stressed. So I saw what they were going through and I thought, wow, they have me, they have my whole family in Israel and they're so shaken up from the experience. I'm sure there are so many people out there in more western areas, more near the border, that going through hell and need us there. So it was no brainer for me. I really wanted to go. At first my family was really worried because, okay, we just extracted them out. Why are you going in? But I assured them that the national delegation will keep safety and I'm not alone. It's not like I'm going to be Rambo alone there. So they agreed. Going out to the mission took time, so we were always on edge. Okay, when we will actually go? There were a few logistical delays, and with every day we were talking the members that were about to go, and we were already so ready to be there and start doing. So the moment they told us, okay, tomorrow we are going, this is final, we were really excited to finally get hands-on. The anticipation was really great.
Amazing. So did you fly into Kiev or did you go into a neighboring country and have to drive into the Ukraine?
No, we did not fly inside Ukraine. We landed in Poland and then we crossed the border by bus. We were located near the border in the Lviv area in a small town called Mostitska. It was a location that was really near the border in order to be available for the people that need to cross, for the refugees, and for all the people that went northwest to, sorry, maybe I'm confusing the directions, that went away from the border with Russia to be more on the safe side. So there were many people that were not crossing the border, but there because of the war, because they couldn't be at their homes and escape to safety and needed medical attention and could not afford it or did not know where to get it.
Amazing. And we're seeing on our monitor there some MDA ambulances that have been specially equipped to drive into the Ukraine with special equipment and to actually give urgent medical assistance under fire. Can you tell us about these amazing fleet of ambulances that Israel and the MDA sent out to the Ukraine to help in the situation?
This is a really unique story because it's also unbelievable in terms of they needed armoured ambulances. And if you think about it, why on earth should an armoured ambulance exist that bears the Red Cross, the international symbol, bears the Red Star of David? Why should it exist? It's not a target. Yet Ukraine required armoured ambulances. They were being targeted. There was indiscriminate fire. Where else in the world has armoured ambulances but Israel?
Absolutely.
And they saw it as their duty to send these out. I think about 15 have gone now. at the request of individual communities and also the Ukrainian authorities. And they are decommissioned ambulances that are in the reserves for MDA, and they have gifted them. They spruced them up, they got them ready, they checked the armour, they restocked them, and they have flown out to Ukraine. And this is really incredible because actually just yesterday I met a very, very, a generous philanthropist who gifted one of these ambulances 15 years ago to MDA through Mda UK to the people of Israel. And they've been told it's decommissioned and it's in reserve if we need it. And now they've found out that their ambulance that they donated has actually gone out to the Ukraine. And they can't believe it, and they want to know, tell me exactly where it's gone, tell me who it's helping. I'm so excited about this, and I'm so inspired that this legacy is carrying on. And I think it's really, really special that you see the images of the MDA ambulance for the people of Ukraine from the people of Israel. And isn't that so? That's just so special for us to see that MDA is giving on those gifts. We've gifted the ambulances to Israel, and now they're gifting them on once they're decommissioned. And I think that's really, really special.
Amazing. Amazing. And Katya, what was your first experiences of being in the Ukraine? Did you experience any fighting? What was the situation? What situation were the refugees in? Tell us, give us the picture.
So we were in a pastoralic small town near the border. Everything seemed calm there, but we experienced a lot of alerts, because the alerts in Ukraine is not like in Israel. It's not as accurate, so the whole Lviv area had alerts when there was shooting, even though it was really far away. So the situation at first was really stressful, and then we got a bit indifferent to the calls because we understood it's not there. I think the population also got split in half. From what I saw, the reaction of the patients that came there. So half of them were really stressed about, okay, let's get to safety, let's go underground. And half of them was looking like, nah, what will be, don't mind that. The whole day sounds like that, so why would we try and run every time? So the alerts were a bit stressful, but we got used to them, and also we know what our protocol is and where the bus evacuation is if we are needed. So we felt prepared to the worst case scenario, but luckily that was not the case there. We saw a lot of people that came for routine checkups, for regular questions. It was basic needs that needed to be met by just someone that will check that everything is fine, sort out the medication, give them the first aid. It was so simple to make someone calm and really grateful for what? For something that should be available any moment. There were some more serious cases of illnesses, but it was really showing that the stress of the situation and being far away from home and the economical situation that was not so great really took a toll on the population, and people were desperate for this place, like somebody that is offering help, reassurance, maybe some food or some clothes, and does not expect anything in return. They were amazed that we are all from Israel, and many of the doctors spoke Russian and a bit of Ukrainian, so they really appreciated that. Of course, there were doctors that did not know the language, and that was so nice to see how everyone was trying their best to communicate and to understand each other, and how appreciative the people were for that. One lady even asked me, I need to know, show me on the map, where is Israel? It's so far away, it's such a small country, I don't believe it, show me. And she was like amazed, what's the deal? How do we do the whole trip there? Why are we here? For what? And she was like, what do you mean? We don't need to pay you? And that was so appreciated by the people. So it was really, really fulfilling, and I'm glad I got to be there for.
Amazing. And Josh, I love what Katya is saying. It's amazing, and it's so important to get this, because this just presents a different side of Israel that our mainstream media loves to portray of Israel. And sadly, I don't remember any news reports focusing on the work of MDA, helping the Ukrainians caught up in the war-torn Ukraine because of the Russian invasion. So this is a good news story. It's a positive news story for Israel, but it shows the heart of Israel, doesn't it? Wanting to help those that are in kind of desperate need, and getting these bulletproof ambulances out to Israel and then driving into the kind of very dangerous areas that are probably under Russian bombardment in the Ukraine.
Yeah. Well, isn't Katya's story really inspirational?
Absolutely.
And it's really incredible to see someone speak from the heart. And the fact you're Ukrainian as well, you know, you really show that. And you know, Katya telling us how the sirens aren't as accurate as Israel. I mean, if we heard a siren in Ukraine, we'd be like, oh my God, that's really scary. And, you know, we're very lucky to live in the UK and not have to experience that. And the Israeli delegations going out to Ukraine saying, oh, the sirens aren't accurate enough for us because they know what those defense systems are like. And a country that has gone through so much, it still feels the need to help others in the same situation. And I think that really is telling of the Israeli spirit. When you see refugees coming into Israel, in what the outgoing PM, or the PM at the moment, Naftali Bennett, saying is the greatest wave of Aliyah in decades, these Ukrainians and also some Russians coming into Israel, they know the experiences these people are going through. You talked about echoes of 80 years ago. What about echoes of just, you know, a year ago or months ago even? And, you know, I think it's that sense of Israeli duty to help others in similar situations, to welcome refugees from war-torn places, to actually go into the line of fire, to actually go into Ukraine. Not many countries sent delegations in Ukraine. A lot of them went to Poland, Moldova, the surrounding borders, but not many actually went into Ukraine itself. Hearing the sirens, meeting the real people that are staying behind and giving them that basic healthcare that they deserve. It's really inspirational. And as you say, it's the real soul and heart of Israel taking those people out there.
Yeah, well said, Joshua. It was really well said. And Katya, I mean, we're in a situation really that you're born in the Ukraine, you made Aliyah with your parents, became an Israeli, then you went back into the Ukraine. And what also feels now that Ukraine has got a very brave and courageous Jewish president in Zelensky, and without him probably Ukraine would have collapsed, but his defiance is absolutely incredible. So what does that mean, knowing that Ukraine has a Jewish president?
I'll be honest, I'm not so good at politics, so I'm not
we're
really
asking about politics.
But I think it's really important to them to know there is someone there that is fighting for them and that is giving back to the community the strength and the belief that they need, that they will get through it. The people that I met were optimistic. Even though the situation is not looking up, they were really optimistic about the future, and they were saying a lot about how they're gonna go back to their homes, they're gonna rebuild, they're gonna see themselves years after years here, and they really, really believe the situation will be better. I think a lot of that goes to their minister that shows them the way and an example. The people there are really amazing. I've met someone that was 70 years old. She came with chest pain to a routine checkup, a bit problems in the ECG. And while she was there with her hard situation, she was always on the phone, and I was asking her, what's so important right now? Rest, relax. But she was saying, no, I have 20 people in my house, refugees from the other side.
Amazing.
So I cannot leave them alone. They will not feel comfortable without me. I need you to write me out as quickly as possible. I need to get back to them. And it really goes to show the unity these people have. This was really nice to see. And I think the Israeli community is also very much like that. We're there for each other, and this was really nice to see other people coming together for each other like that. it is uncommon. I did not remember it like this, and it was really heartwarming to witness that.
Amazing. And Joshua, MDA is doing an incredible job in alleviating all the stress and the strains on the Ukrainian health service as well, because like you said, there's not many nations, I don't know any nations that have actually gone into Ukraine, set up field hospitals, set up paramedics, provide doctors, provided ambulance to help the Ukrainian healthcare system. But what difference does that make, just alleviating some of the pressure of some of the hospitals and the doctors in Ukraine?
Yeah, I'm also not an expert in the Ukrainian healthcare, but I know any help is definitely appreciated. And isn't it fantastic? You know, Israel is providing that help and is able to send out, you know, this coalition wasn't just Magen David Adom paramedics, but it was people, doctors and nurses from hospitals right across Israel coming together and making sure they're able to go over them, fly the flag of Israel. You know, at the field hospitals, you know, they had an Israeli flag next to a Ukrainian flag saying, "We are here for you." And you know, it's tough. That, you know, the Israeli population, it has a large majority, you know, a large group of Russians and Ukrainians living big communities in Israel, and you know, it's not an easy thing for them. And you know, politically, there's pressures on both sides. But you know, Magen David Adom is all about saving lives. And that's the core thing here. It's about seeing someone in distress and helping them and making sure that we're able to help as many people as possible. And, you know, paramedics such as Katya and the other fantastic workers, whether they're EMTs, paramedics, ambulance drivers, logistics people, people taking people's blood for blood donations, all working for one thing, and that's to save lives. And that's ultimately what MDA are all about, and what a fantastic organisation, a representation of the very best of Israel's society.
And Katya, can you just now probably ask a kind of logistical question? What were the Israeli field hospitals like that were set up inside the Ukraine? So what was your job? How did MDA set them up? And how did they help these Ukrainians caught up in the war? Many of them injured, many of them scared, many of them probably having health problems because they couldn't go to hospitals, everything with all the trouble going on.
So the field hospital was set up by the national delegation. MDA was an integral part of the crews that were sent there, but the setting up was the delegation itself from the Israel country. My job was to be part of the medical personnel in the emergency room. There were we were set inside a school. There are no studying during the situation, so the school was turned into a field hospital. We got tents for different checkups, starting from the emergency room, and then dividing to different specialities. There were also a place to stay for like hospitalization. There were experts from all kinds of all the fields, from the Children's Hospital, Schneider, from the OBGYNs. The best and the brightest were there. I was really inspired by those great people that volunteered to come to the delegation and spent there the whole 2 weeks. We were also sleeping inside this school during the night, during the shifts that we were not on call. So we were really nearby the treatment area. Every morning, before we opened up the gates, there was already a really long line till the end of the street, like from 6 a.m. Wow. Before the hospital already was open. Everybody were passing it on from ear to mouth, and there were people that came from great distance. There is like, for me, a drive that is more than 15 minutes in Israel, it's considered long. People came there from distances that I could not believe. It's like half a country for me in my terms. And they were coming because they knew they will get the help and the support, and somebody will listen to them and give out the help and the advice they needed. So that was really nice to see and be a part of. The technology that was brought there was amazing. I don't know the specifics, but part of the equipment that was brought there was donated later to local medical facilities, like X-ray machines and more, but I'm not aware of all the details. And there were just, I took part in few like trainings, educations for the medical staff that was local about trauma care and responding to emergencies there. Other missions of MDA did those instructions and also gave out this education, not only to medical personnel, but other population, because we knew that the most important thing is for anyone who can encounter it to have the basic skills like stopping a bleed and recognizing a threatening life event. So that was really important. And I think the fact that we also did instructions, it's like passing something on that will keep going, and they will be able to use it even though we came back.
And Katya, how long were you out there for?
I was there for 2 weeks. I was actually planning on going back for the other round, but unfortunately I got down with COVID, so plans and yeah.
And Josh, I mean, it's an incredible logistical operation, isn't it, to actually set up field hospitals in Ukraine while amidst the war actually taking place. I know that Israel had an incredible field hospital taking place between in the north of Israel and the Golan Heights on the Syrian border, helping ordinary Syrians get urgent medical attention on the border, and they came to love and trust Israel because they saw that generosity of spirit and that generosity of help. And I've interviewed people who've actually worked in those field hospitals as well, so it's just an amazing story. But I mean, just share with us how much the kind of, I mean, to think, for example, that 5 bulletproof ambulances were donated by members of the Jewish community for MDA UK to help Katya and her colleagues in the Ukraine. It shows an incredible generosity, doesn't it, on behalf of the Jewish community in the UK to support the work of MDA?
Yeah, fantastic. Yeah, it's just the Jewish community in the UK that donated 5. I think 15 in total have gone out, and that's incredible. And you spoke about refugees arriving in Israel. So there's been a massive wave of Ukrainian refugees arriving in Israel, and MDA has been at the forefront of ensuring they can fit into Israeli society as quick as possible. If many of them require urgent medical attention the minute they hit the tarmac, and ambulances are waiting for them and taking them to hospitals. MDA has also set up a Russian-speaking call centre. Actually, the call centre now speaks 7 different languages, so they can phone up whether it's about a medical emergency or how do I get this paperwork. They're using their call centre technology in order to manage these calls. And furthermore, there's this fantastic project in Kfar Chabad, working with the Chabad movement in Israel, using their call centre and using their command vehicle in order to be able to coordinate all these logistics. You know, MDA is leading in, you know, Israel's a great leader in technology and high tech. MDA is no different. Its dispatch technology, its call centre technology is the best in the world. And what we're trying to do in the UK and across the world is to tell other health providers about it, tell other governments provide it. And what they've been able to do is actually sell this commercially worldwide, which is incredible for such a small country to be selling the way they manage ambulances and teaching other health services, you know, teaching it to other countries is pretty incredible. And it's because of that ingenuity and because of that technology that they're able to nimbly and quickly go to countries such as Ukraine and help. They're able to welcome, you know, tens of thousands of refugees into what's a relatively small country and look after them. And that's a pretty incredible feat that they're able to do. So, you know, it's something, yeah. Great.
Excellent. So let's have a look at this news item produced by MDA, and this is one of their paramedics speaking from a field hospital in Moldova.
Hello everyone, my name is Chaim Levin, I'm a medical supervisor at Magen David Adom. This is our clinic here in Chisinau, Moldova. This is clinic working at a refugee camp, refugee center that built the Jewish community here in Moldova. This is our clinic are helping to a lot of refugees that coming every day here by buses from Ukraine. They came after a long journey. Some of them coming after 5 days of journey, some of them after 12 hours, and they come here exhausted and in bad shape and medical condition that they need some treatment. Some of them need a medical treatment like drugs, medications, and procedures. Some of them need to refill their medication because they get empty and they need to refill the chronic medication for their chronic problems. So this our clinic. We have here a lot of staff. We have here a pediatrician. We have here family MD doctors. We have paramedics here, and we giving them effective and good treatment. And after we finish, they go back to their journey to the destination where they choose.
And that's MDA there helping out in Moldova. Katya, you say not only have you been inside Ukraine, this is MDA, I'm not saying you personally, but MDA have been in Moldova as well and helping the Jewish refugees and others help make Aliyah. Can you share a little bit of the partnership that you have also with the Jewish Agency? Because we know the Jewish Agency is there, they're helping Jewish people make Aliyah, and you're providing medical assistance.
So we were less in contact with the Jewish embassies there, but
Agencies,
sorry. But I can tell you from my personal experience with my grandparents that with the great help of Chabad, they were able to be extracted from Odessa. I don't think that it would happen in any other way. The Jewish organizations there really took care of the community and helped to reassure the public. I have still family members there, so really them having the Jewish community and having someone to ask and to consult with, and the sense of togetherness is really great, and I think it's really contributing to the unity feeling.
Yeah. And what reports are you getting from the members of the Jewish community still left in the Ukraine? Particularly your hometown of Odessa, which is a port on the Black Sea, which is so important because so many Jewish people from the Ukraine and Russia have made Aliyah through the port of Odessa.
Yeah, so my family, uncle and aunt is still there with their kids. They're unable, unfortunately, to get out because of the service law for a man between 18 and 65. And there are lots of others that are still there from choice because it is their home and they want to stand their ground. But the situation is really tight there, and I think being together and sensing the community really gives them strength and hope for the best.
And how did your Ukrainian background help you as a paramedic connect with the Ukrainian people, the culture, so you're able to help them? I'm sure that you're a massive asset to MDA whilst you're in Ukraine.
So at first, as you know, the part of Ukraine that speaks Ukrainian is more to the north. And in the big cities, the common language was Russian up until recent events. So after my journey with my grandparents, I sat down and made a small dictionary with the common complaints in Ukraine and the names of diseases in Ukraine. So when we met up with the patients, the first thing that they hear is Russian, but mixed with Ukrainian language. It's less antagonizing, it's reassuring. So it's a bit different, yeah. It's harder to pronounce, but we made it work, and it made people feel they're safe. I taught even Hebrew-speaking personnel few words in Ukrainian, and the look on people's face, on the patient's face, when you welcome them in their own language, and when you know some basic stuff, it's really, really showing goodwill and good faith. And
amazing, amazing. And Joshua, you represent the kind of younger generation of MDA UK, or the face of the younger generation of MDA. How important is it to get kind of Katya's message and what Katya's been through out, so people know not only about the incredible work being done by MDA, but also knowing the incredible work that Israel is doing around the world that doesn't get the coverage that it should get?
100%. It's really important. It's really important to share stories about Israel doing good around the world, and we're sitting here having a conversation about Ukraine, tragic events going on in Ukraine, and how we're able to have a long, deep conversation about how Israel is helping them. That's Israel going around the world and creating those ties and showing their good to the world. You know, which other medical ambulance organization is so diverse because of the unique nature of Israel, that they can be so lucky to have Katya, who's native Russian speaking, as well as has family in Ukraine, to have those experiences to, you know, okay, maybe Ukraine feels a bit different now, but you used to go to Ukraine every summer as a child to go visit your family. It's really important, and MDA is a great example of that. You know, in Israel they call it coexistence, and here we might call it more multiculturalism. It looks like Israel. MDA is an organization of everyone for everyone. It is an organization of Jews, of Arabs, of Christians, of Muslims, of Bedouins, of Druze, working to save lives of exactly the people that make it up. And I think that's really unique, and it's so great to have MDA. And a little pun I use is it's a vehicle for all the best of Israel, because we're talking about ambulances and vehicles. I have to explain my joke, it's not a good one. But you know, it's a great show of that. It's leading the world in what it does. I was so proud, you know, during the tough times of coronavirus, to see that Israel was top of the charts week in, week out, whilst watching the mainstream news in delivering the vaccine. How fantastic was it to see that MDA were a core part of that vaccine rollout, of the testing. A little known fact is that MDA actually claimed to have invented the drive-through testing, and apparently it worked its way from MDA right to the White House, and America took that on board. Isn't that fantastic that it's leading the world and showing how amazing Israel innovation is? I spoke about its technology earlier, and it's going, and it's a beacon of humanitarianism. It's, as you said earlier in the program, that true face of Israel, wanting to help other people around the world. And it's as we all know, it's got its own problems to sort out, yet it's still doing that. And there was a coalition going around the world to help others, and isn't that fantastic? And that's the message we really want to spread amongst the negativity and the politics and all the noise that's going on. Let's share the important messages that MDA can show to really show the true face of Israel and what it wants to be.
So Katya, you've swapped roles now. So you are in London on a tour. So share with us some of the PR work you are doing to share your story, the story of MDA, and not only saving lives in Israel, but also saving lives in war-torn Ukraine as well.
So my role here is really to come and get the word out, bring it to the knowledge of the people, to really show what we've been doing, where we are going, and what's the experience that we've been through. I got really lucky to be a part of this, and I really appreciate everyone inviting me. I think it's really important for the people that take part in this society to know what is actually being done, and to feel that what they contribute towards and what they affiliate with is real work and has an impact. So I'm glad if my story resonates with others, and if that continues to give others hope and motivation to do, that's then my job is done.
And Joshua and the office at MDA UK looking after you well, okay? Because we're on air now, so...
Amazing.
Correct answer.
Excellent. And we're down to probably about 4 or 5 minutes left of the programme, Joshua. Now, our viewers, I know, love the work of MDA and certainly get behind the work of Christian Friends of Magen David Adom with Reverend Mark Meadley and also Barbara as well. So they do amazing work. Just explain how important it is to have that Christian support coming from the Christian community with the work of MDA UK, and how anyone that hasn't got involved in MDA, how they can.
It's really special for us to know that people outside the Jewish community care so deeply about Israel, and Israel is a country important to the three major faiths in the world and to many others. And it's so special that we have, not just good wishes and support, but people that are putting their hands in their pocket from the Christian community to help NDA, and that's really special to us. And we feel it's our duty to show our supporters, as Katya was explaining earlier, where the money is going. And we had a fantastic outpouring of support at the beginning of the Ukraine crisis. We had to launch a crisis appeal in order to fund the field hospitals, to fund the ambulances going to Ukraine. And the UK money actually funded a clinic in Moldova, as well as we had a really special project where MDA UK were able to underwrite the costs of any refugee going to Israel for their healthcare on an MDA ambulance. If they couldn't afford it themselves and they weren't able to organise the insurance in time, we said, don't worry about it. Our supporters have got them covered, and are making sure there's no bureaucracy and no financial things standing in the way of them getting the immediate first aid care they need. And that's really, really important to just explain that to our supporters, that their money is really going to those who need it. CFMDA, as we like to call them, our Christian friends, are fantastic part of the family of MDA supporters in the UK and around the world. It's not just Christians in the UK that support Magen David Adom, and I think that's really showing that together we want to build MDA and build the state of Israel in the vision that we want, in the positive way, and to make sure that that story is told to everyone around the world. And we're so honoured for all our supporters for supporting us. So for anybody that would like to get involved, our website is mdauk.org, and you can just explore the different programmes and projects we've been working on. Our social media is always bars and up to date with the most up to date and live ongoings that's happening in Israel, and that's really important. If you can't give financially, but you can like on social media or share our message across with your friends. That's also very, very important to us. And anything you can give financially, is greatly appreciated. And you can see from the work Katya is doing exactly where the money's going and exactly the sort of people that are being helped. So thank you to everyone that supported so far. I know you've spoken about MDA before in this show, and we really appreciate your support, Revelation, and looking forward to future friendships.
Definitely. And Katya, how warming is it to know the response you're getting, not only from the Anglo-Jewish community here in the UK, but also from the evangelical Christian community as well, knowing that they want to hear your message, they want to support you, so you don't feel like you're alone in the incredible work that you do?
So it's really heartwarming. This whole experience, the whole delegation and the whole trip for this mission was really transformative for me. I got the chance to take part in something so big, so greater than just me. I've got to meet the best professionals from all over Israel, from all the different hospitals and different fields. They inspired me to do my best work and to continue on. I really appreciate anyone who can see this and say it's not their problem. I want to take action, I want to do something, and I'm really proud to be Israeli that's going out elsewhere and spreading the giving and the caring around the world. I think that's the main reason and the main message from all of this. It's really great to do something good for somebody else, and anyone who takes part in it is amazing and is rewarded back. Really.
Katya, I just want to thank you so much for coming all the way from Israel to share your remarkable story, and we'll tell our viewers to keep you in their prayers for when you're doing those life-saving emergencies in Israel. And thank you so much, Joshua, a great representation for the young face of MDA UK. You've done a great job. And I want to thank you for watching this programme at home. We can tell how vitally important it is to support the work of MDA, particularly UK, in saving lives in Israel, but also their incredible work that they're doing, helping war-torn Ukrainians with urgent medical attention. So thank you for watching this week's Middle East Report.